The story begins with showing Kosaka, a high school student who sat by the classroom window with his chin resting on his hand. He sighed deeply, complaining about how dull and uneventful his school life was. Known for being mischievous and lazy, Kosaka had even repeated a grade once. Despite his flaws, his good looks and sharp mind made him popular among the girls at school. Meanwhile, in the same school, Shikano Nana walked quietly along the corridor. Soon after, she stopped by a trash can, carefully picking out dead bees. Nana was the opposite of Kosaka. She was quiet, reserved, and often seemed lost in her own world. She had few friends and was frequently bullied by her classmates, leaving her with deep scars and a tendency to think of doing the unthinkable. At that moment, Kosaka noticed Nana holding the bee and curiously followed her. There was something about her quiet, self-loathing demeanor that drew him in. As the school's popular student, he had never encountered someone like her before. The scene then shifts to two girls chatting. Jimiko, a shy girl with glasses, was talking to her best friend Kayapiko, who known for her beauty and charm. Kayapiko was admired by many, but envied by some due to her flirtatious nature and habit of frequently changing boyfriends. Unlike Kayapiko, Jimiko had never been in a relationship and often daydreamed about experiencing her first love. On the other hand, Jimiko's younger brother, Yachiyo, was a handsome and aloof first-year student. His cold and distant personality intrigued Nadeshiko, a girl who openly confessed her love for him at every opportunity. Despite her boldness, Yachiyo showed no interest in her advances, maintaining his cool indifference. At the school park, Nana is seen carefully burying the dead bee she had picked up earlier. At that moment, Kosaka stood behind her, watching silently for a moment before stepping closer to offer her a chocolate ice cream. Hesitant at first, Nana eventually accepted it. As they talked, a connection began to form between the two, slowly bridging the gap between their contrasting worlds. Meanwhile, Yachiyo lay on a sofa, his eyes glued to his phone screen. He was watching a video blog where a young man detailed the murder of a high school student. Just then, Nadeshiko entered the room, interrupting him. Yachiyo quickly turned off his phone and claimed he wasn't doing anything, clearly hiding the video from her. The next day, Kosaka and Nana's homeroom teacher made a shocking announcement. The city was experiencing a surge in murder cases, with victims falling frequently. Because of this, the school urged everyone to be cautious and avoid staying out late, warning that even one of their own students had become a victim. Hearing this, Nana felt a wave of despair wash over her. The news amplified her feelings of hopelessness, pushing her closer to the edge as thoughts of doing the unthinkable began to consume her once more. Soon after, Nana climbed to the rooftop of the school building, her heart heavy with despair. She then pulled out a small knife, intending to hurt her wrist. Just as she was about to go through with it, Kosaka appeared and quickly stopped her. Although Nana looked annoyed and frustrated with his interference, Kosaka brushed it off with his usual laid-back attitude. It was clear in this moment that Kosaka was starting to care for Nana, his growing interest in her becoming more apparent. The scene then shifts to Yachiyo and Nadeshiko. At that moment, Yachiyo was sitting quietly in the library, absorbed in a book, while Nadeshiko followed him like a shadow. She tried to flirt with him and even boldly said she wanted to kiss him, but Yachiyo dismissed her request firmly, keeping his distance as always. Elsewhere, Kayapiko was on another date with a new man. As usual, the relationship lacked depth and love. Kayapiko was accustomed to short-lived romances, preferring to cheat on her partners before they could betray her. Apparently, it was her way of protecting herself from heartbreak. Despite this, Kayapiko and Jimiko were inseparable at school, often spending time together. Jimiko was the only one who truly understood the real Kayapiko. That night, while they were chatting, Kayapiko shared that she had found a video of a man exposing the murder of a high school student. It was the same video Yachiyo had watched earlier. Seeing the video, Jimiko was disturbed by it and begged Kayapiko to delete it immediately. On the other hand, Kosaka and Nana were seen visited a temple together that day, enjoying each other's company in a peaceful setting. As they spent time together, their feelings for each other began to surface. They started to behave like a couple, their contrasting personalities blending in a way that strengthened their connection and chemistry. Meanwhile, Yachiyo called Nadeshiko to meet him in the classroom after school. When she arrived, he surprised her by confessing his feelings and asking her to be his girlfriend. Overwhelmed with joy, Nadeshiko felt tears well up in her eyes. However, it turned out to be nothing more than a beautiful dream. When Nadeshiko woke up, her happiness shattered into sadness, leaving her heart heavy with disappointment. The following day, Nana faced more bullying from her classmates. They teased and ridiculed her, but this time, Kosaka stepped in to protect her. He defended Nana confidently, making it clear that he wouldn't tolerate their behavior. Ever since Kosaka and Nana became closer, he had been looking out for her, offering her the support and care she desperately needed. Meanwhile, the dynamic between Yachiyo and Nadeshiko continued to evolve. That day, Yachiyo was resting in the school infirmary, lying on the cot with his usual calm demeanor. Nadeshiko arrived shortly after, her face lighting up at the sight of him. She eagerly told him about a dream she had the previous night, a beautiful, sweet dream that had quickly turned sour when she woke up and faced reality. Her disappointment was evident, as the dream reminded her how far it was from her actual life. Elsewhere, Kayapiko was still meeting different men, keeping her carefree attitude toward relationships. Jimiko, noticing this pattern, suggested that Kayapiko stop playing with people's feelings and focus on something meaningful. However, Kayapiko dismissed the advice, expressing her belief that everyone deserves to be loved, and she wanted to keep living in a way that ensured she was never without love. This concern worried Jimiko. She feared that if Kayapiko ever stopped feeling loved, she might spiral into despair and doing the unthinkable. Unexpectedly, Kayapiko harbored feelings for a young man she had known for a long time. They often visited each other's homes and shared a friendly bond, but Kayapiko was too scared to confess her love. She feared rejection and the possibility that her confession might ruin their friendship. Back to Nana and Kosaka, their relationship continued to grow stronger. Although they didn't label themselves as a couple, they spent almost all their time together. Nana, who usually kept her emotions guarded, found herself secretly developing feelings for Kosaka, her heart warming with each passing moment they shared. Meanwhile, Nadeshiko approached Yachiyo during his break, finding him quietly playing Chinese chess. At that moment, she invited him to watch a movie with her, suggesting a film she knew he had been wanting to see for a long time. To her surprise, Yachiyo agreed immediately. Nadeshiko had expected him to decline, and his unexpected acceptance left her momentarily speechless, her heart skipping with excitement. The story then shifts to Kayapiko and the boy she secretly liked. The two were browsing together in an accessories shop. While they explored the aisles, the young man mentioned he wanted to buy a gift for his girlfriend at university. Hearing this, Kayapiko's heart sank. Jealousy and sadness swirled within her, but she masked her feelings with a bright smile, pretending to be happy for him while concealing her heartbreak. The next day, Kosaka and Nana received their semester exam results. Kosaka, known for his intelligence, scored very high marks, while Nana received extremely low grades. Embarrassed and afraid of being scolded by her parents, Nana decided she didn't want to go home and asked Kosaka if she could stay at his house. However, Kosaka gently refused, explaining that he had a part-time job that night and wouldn't be home. The following evening, Kosaka met Nana at a park in the city. Nana excitedly brought along fireworks, hoping to lighten her mood. Unfortunately, the fireworks were old and wouldn't light. Seeing her disappointment, Kosaka quickly came up with an idea to cheer her up. He took her to eat her favorite burger and treated her to vanilla ice cream, bringing a smile back to her face. Meanwhile, Yachiyo called Nadeshiko to ask which movie theater they would go to. Nadeshiko, thrilled to receive her first ever phone call from Yachiyo, was so excited that she tried to record their conversation. However, Yachiyo hung up before she could. Despite this, Yachiyo began to find Nadeshiko's cheerful and quirky behavior endearing. As he thought back to all the times she had confessed her love to him, he started to see her feelings as genuine rather than playful. The next evening, Yachiyo and Nadeshiko went to the movie theater together. Nadeshiko was so nervous that she could hardly sit still, overjoyed to be spending time with him. After the movie ended, Nadeshiko shyly asked Yachiyo if he could hold her hand for 10 seconds. To her surprise, Yachiyo held her hand the entire way home, leaving her heart fluttering. In another part of the story, Kayapiko faced heartbreak. The young man she secretly liked decided to end their relationship, explaining that he wanted to focus on his real girlfriend. Although Kayapiko tried to act indifferent, she was crushed. She managed to smile in front of him, pretending she was okay, even though it felt like her heart was breaking into pieces. The next day, Yachiyo offered to drive Nadeshiko home. As they arrived, Yachiyo did something unexpected. He confessed his feelings for her. He admitted that he had liked her all along, but had kept it hidden out of fear. He was afraid she might leave him someday, just like his ex-girlfriend had. Hearing his confession, Nadeshiko was overwhelmed with joy. Meanwhile, Kayapiko visited Jimiko to pour out her feelings. Jimiko had always been her safe space, the one person who knew her completely and with whom she didn't have to pretend. That night, Kayapiko broke down in tears, unable to hold back her sadness. Jimiko comforted her, reminding her that she wasn't alone. Their friendship, which had started in childhood, was strong enough to carry them through the hardest times. In the days that followed, Nadeshiko and Yachiyo officially started dating. Nadeshiko felt happier than ever, finally enjoying precious moments with Yachiyo. They spent their time going on dates and watching movies together, savoring their new relationship. Meanwhile, Kosaka and Nana continued their usual routine of spending time together on the school rooftop. One afternoon, during their conversation, Nana expressed her deep sadness. She said that if she disappeared, the world wouldn't change at all, making her feel like her existence was meaningless. Kosaka immediately responded, telling her that while the world might not change if she were gone, she could change it. He urged her to believe in the value of her life, reminding her that her existence mattered. In a tender moment, Kosaka kissed her gently on the cheek, hoping to reassure her. On their way home, Kosaka and Nana walked side by side, their concern for each other clearly visible. Both of them knew deep down that they liked one another, but neither dared to confess their feelings. Finally, Kosaka broke the silence and told Nana that he wanted their relationship to grow closer. That day, Nana and Kosaka officially became a couple. As Kosaka walked back home that evening, a man in a white coat suddenly appeared behind him. The man asked if Kosaka was in love. Kosaka, sensing something strange, tried to ignore him and walked away. But without warning, the man stabbed him from behind. The attacker turned out to be a psychopath roaming the city, targeting people who were in love. As Kosaka collapsed, his vision blurred, but he managed to glance at a photo of Nana on his phone before losing consciousness. Not long after, Nana received the devastating news of Kosaka's death. Shocked and unable to process what had happened, she felt a deep emptiness inside. At Kosaka's funeral, Nana stood quietly, her face expressionless. She didn't cry, but felt utterly hollow, as though her world had stopped. That night, Kosaka appeared in Nana's dream. In the dream, Nana expressed her heartbreak, telling him how unfair it was that he had left first, especially since she had been the one who wanted to leave the world. Kosaka comforted her, gently reassuring her. Before the dream ended, he kissed her again, leaving her with a bittersweet memory. The next day, Nana visited Kosaka's home and found a small gift he had prepared for her before his death. Holding the gift tightly, she hugged it close, her thoughts filled with him. She longed to feel his presence again, wishing she could see him just one more time. That night, Kosaka appeared in her dream once more. This time, he encouraged her to find meaning in her life and fill it with purpose. His words deeply moved Nana. From that moment on, she began to change. She started to live her life with a newfound determination, seeking to do good and make the most of every moment. Even as she moved forward, Nana kept hoping that Kosaka was watching over her, guiding her through every step of her journey. So the moral of the story is, falling in love can make life feel brighter, but don't get too comfortable, because life, much like a random guy in a white coat, loves to sneak up and ruin everything when you least expect it.